So, as you know, following Harry's visit to the UK, in which Meghan and the children also saw the King and the Queen privately, there has been leaks and counter leaks and briefings to every outlet under the sun. And this time it is the turn of the times. And I think the most telling detail isn't the reconciliation language at all. I think it's the reported fear that if Harry had stayed at Buckingham Palace, he might have had what a source called his Evita moment on royal turf. And separately, sources close to the king described profound constitutional upset over Harry's whitewash statement, calling it an attack not just on the judge, but the entire judicial system that is acting in the king's name. And so I think when you read those two concerns together, the institution's stated anxiety isn't about a father being estranged from his son or grandchildren. It was actually about the optics, right? About what Harry might say or do while standing on property that photographs as royal, and about the constitutional embarrassment of his statement landing under the king's own roof. And I think it's a very useful admission because it tells you that the accommodation decision was being war-gamed as a reputational risk management problem before it was ever treated as a family matter. So it was all about the optics. All those big words to say, it was all about the optics. And this is really weird because I did a video about the fact that Andrew brought his friends into the throne room of Buckingham Palace. Photographs were taken on actual thrones. One of the thrones was the throne that the late Queen Elizabeth herself sat on and was crowned. The crown was placed on her head in 1953 while she was sitting on that exact throne. And Andrew had his very unsavory friends come into the palace and sit on those thrones. And that wasn't treated as a reputational risk or optics or anything like that. There was no leaks, no briefings around that behavior. And yet we have a king right now whose courtiers are leaking and briefing like no man's business. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that they can't even keep their ish private. They have to run to the Times every 5 market days. It's unbelievable. Now, this particular article in the Times also confirms something concrete, and I think we need to pay it attention because apparently Harry is expected to return in September to support Wellchild. As you know, he's always come back every September anyway. So that's not really big news. So, and neither side, right? So neither Harry or his family is ruling out another reunion in the autumn. So this particular statement has been sourced to people close to Harry. Now, I know Harry I don't know for sure, but I think it's highly unlikely that Harry's side would brief the Times unless they are speaking directly to somebody like Bryony. But they definitely will not be briefing somebody like Roya Nicker, because Roya Nicker was one of the 3 witches of Eastwick peering into Harry's car when it was parked outside Chatham House, and they refused to move when they were told by security to move because Harry wants to get into his car. Thank you very much. But anyway, I digress. So what I'm trying to say is that the Times is reporting a possibility of another family reunion in a couple of months, which means the incandescent one is going to combust. So if this reunion in September holds, it means that the meeting that happened last Friday is not a one-off olive branch, extended under duress, but potentially the first of at least 2 planned contact points before the year is out. Interesting. Now, I'm also going to talk about, you see, sometimes, right, when you read these articles, they lead with a particular headline, and then buried deep within the article is the real truth. So in the article's closing paragraphs, I think there's something there. So this is it. So after walking through all reconciliation, olive branch, they do the usual thing. This article then pivots to note that Harry's charity work is not enough to lift him back onto the podium as one of the most popular members of the royal family as he once was. Now, I think that's a very strange thing to say. And I think it's a very strange thing to measure a father visiting his grandchildren against, because it reveals that the institution itself, what they care most about is not whether Harry is content or whether his children have a relationship with their grandfather, but they are concerned with popularity. For them, it's always a popularity contest, because they're saying, well, okay, so yeah, he did charity work and all the papers paid him attention, and he did capture the heart of British people again, but that's not enough. Actually, it is. It truly is. This is my however moment, because it is. And you know why it is? Because the leftover royals, particularly the other brother and the other girl, they do bare minimum. In the land of bare minimum, somebody who is above average is king. And Harry is king. Because Harry shows up, delivers passion, doesn't do 15-minute Zoom calls, or 15-minute walkabouts or half an hour walkabout and buggers off. He literally gets involved. He doesn't catch how, he looks ridiculous. Some people said, oh my God, goat yoga. But then again, Harry manages to make everything he does look cool. And that is a problem that the other brother and other girl have. Because with them, it's about performance. Everything is... And yet, with Harry, it's natural, it's authentic. And people are attracted to his warmth. The way those children were flocking around Harry. And the child that decided that Harry is a climbing frame, how about that? Again, these are moments that Harry produces again and again and again. Be it slicing cakes, be it hugging people, be it running, taking part, being enthusiastic. This is what Harry delivers. And trust me, it is enough to lift him back onto the podium. Because one interview with Alison Hammond, and that's it. And that's it. And the irony is that even people that do not like him, do not agree with him, do not like Meghan, they all supported him. They all felt that he should have had accommodation in his father's palace. So the Times, I fear, this is wishful thinking on their part. This is the briefing that they got from the palace. Saying, well, he may have done XYZ, but he's still not popular. He is. Admit it. He is. He got more coverage than the other brother and the other girl can ever dream of. To the point where they even put the other girl on the front page on Saturday, holding the trophy. Don't care about the actual Wimbledon champion, but still, it's not enough. Because optics, posing and optics, that's not what people want. We want people who give their hearts and souls. And the other brother and the other girl, they simply do not. But anyway, they're on holiday right now. I'm sure they're going to bugger off for the rest of the summer. And they'll probably surface again in September. And yeah, good luck with all of that. But anyway, if popularity polling were what mattered to Harry, Harry wouldn't have left in the first place. Harry, that's the irony. He doesn't care about popularity. He cares about doing service. Like he and Meghan said, service is universal and is not measured by popularity.
This is ridiculous, squaddies. Before Prince Harry has even packed his bags for September, the headlines have already started sprinting. This time, the Times is asking the big question: will Prince Harry visit the palace? Now hang on a minute, has anything actually been confirmed? No. Is there an official announcement about a palace meeting? Not that we've seen. So how did we get from Harry's upcoming charity work straight to palace reunion talk? See, that's the part that caught my attention. It's almost like Harry can't announce a trip without somebody immediately turning it into an episode of will they, won't they? Forget why he's coming, forget the people he'll be meeting, forget the causes he'll be supporting. Nope, the spotlight swings right back to palace gates, family drama, and who's going to shake whose hand. Sound familiar? Because we've seen this movie before. Harry could be flying in to support veterans, visit children, or champion a charity he's worked with for years. And somehow, the first question becomes, but will he see the king? It's like your friend tells you they're opening a new business, and instead of saying congratulations, you ask, so have you spoken to your cousin lately? You're thinking, can we finish one conversation before starting another? That's what makes this interesting. Harry's schedule often includes charitable work and community events, yet the speculation quickly shifts to palace storylines before those engagements have even happened. Now, don't get me wrong, people are naturally curious about family relationships, especially when public figures are involved. That's understandable. But sometimes it feels like the work itself gets pushed into the background while the reunion theories take centre stage. And here's what regular people notice. When someone spends years supporting causes they care about, you'd expect at least some of the conversation to focus on that effort. Instead, the attention often races towards the palace before Harry has even stepped off the plane. So here's the question, squaddies. Why does the conversation keep jumping to palace speculation before anyone has even seen what Harry is actually coming to do? Because if history has taught us anything, it's that whenever Prince Harry announces a visit, the headlines don't just report the trip, they start writing the next chapter before the first page has even been turned.
Somebody explained this one to me because it's given mixed signals. Every few weeks we're told Prince Harry is irrelevant. Okay, then why does every single UK visit turn into breaking news? Seriously, Harry doesn't even have to land at Heathrow before the headlines start warming up. Will he meet the king? Will he visit the palace? What does this mean for William? Is reconciliation finally happening? By the time Harry's flight is boarding, half the country has already hosted a panel discussion about him. Come on now. I've never seen someone who's supposedly irrelevant create so much overtime in newsrooms. It's almost impressive. Think about it. A visit gets announced, the newspaper's going to overdrive. Television panels suddenly have a full day's programming. Royal commentators appear everywhere with maps, theories, predictions, and timelines. You'd think Harry had announced he was running for Prime Minister. And here's the funny part. The same voices saying nobody cares about Harry anymore somehow managed to spend 3 straight days talking about Harry. Make it make sense. It's like your neighbour saying they're completely over their ex, then checking their ex's Instagram before breakfast, during lunch, and right before bed. At some point you stop believing the words and start watching the actions, because actions usually tell the real story. Now, let's be fair. People are naturally interested in members of the royal family. That's nothing new. But Harry seems to have this unique ability to spark a fresh wave of discussion every time he announces he's coming to Britain. Before he's greeted anyone, before he's attended a single event, before he's shaken one hand, the conversation is already in full swing. And that's what stands out. This isn't just about one article, it's the pattern. Every visit becomes a countdown. Every appearance becomes a debate. Every trip becomes a guessing game. Meanwhile, Harry is preparing for the work he actually came to do. That's the bit that often gets overlooked. The charities, the veterans, the children, the communities waiting to see him. Sometimes those stories have to fight for attention because everyone else is busy asking what Harry might do instead of talking about what he's actually doing. And honestly, regular people notice that. Because when someone keeps generating this much conversation year after year, calling them irrelevant starts sounding less like an observation and more like wishful thinking. Now, squaddies, this is the part that no headline can fully capture. Forget the speculation for a minute. Forget the palace. Forget all the noise. Let's talk about what actually happened when Harry showed up, because there's a big difference between attending an event and being present at an event. You could see it the moment he walked in. The atmosphere changed. Children were smiling from ear to ear. Phones came out for selfies. People weren't standing there looking nervous or awkward. They were laughing, talking, sharing little moments. At one point, Harry was cutting cake alongside the children, not because someone handed him a script and said, "Smile for exactly 3 seconds." It looked relaxed, natural, the kind of interaction you can't fake. And then came my favourite part. Those kids didn't treat him like some distant royal figure standing behind ropes. They were climbing onto him for photos, leaning in, wrapping their arms around him, completely comfortable. Now tell me something. Kids are brutally honest. They don't care about newspaper headlines. They don't care about royal gossip. You can't tell a child, "Smile for this person because the cameras are here." Children respond to how someone makes them feel. That's it. If they're uncomfortable, you'll know immediately. If they're having fun, you'll know that too. And watching those moments, you didn't see forced smiles. You saw genuine excitement. You saw children acting like children. Honestly, it reminded me of that favourite uncle who turns up at every family gathering. The one who ends up on the floor playing games while everyone else is busy having serious conversations. Before you know it, every kid in the house is following him around. That's the energy Harry brings to a lot of these visits. He's not rushing from handshake to handshake like he's trying to beat a stopwatch. He slows down, he listens, he jokes, he kneels down to meet people at their level, he makes time. And regular people notice those little things because they're the moments that stay with you long after the cameras leave. Anybody can wave from a distance, anybody can pose for a photograph, but making people feel seen, making a nervous child burst into laughter, helping create a memory they'll probably talk about for years, that's something different. That's not measured by applause, it's measured by the smiles people take home with them. And maybe that's why these visits leave such an impression, because Harry doesn't just show up, tick a box and disappear. He shows up, and people remember how he made them feel. Sometimes that's worth far more than the headline waiting for him the next morning.
Here's where I think some people completely miss the point. When Prince Harry shows up somewhere, he isn't usually asking how many cameras are here. He seems more interested in asking, "Who am I meeting today?" And that's a big difference. Because if you look back over the years, there's a pattern. Veterans, children, mental health, families going through difficult times, charities trying to make a real difference. Those aren't random stops on a calendar. They've been part of Harry's public life for a long time. But one thing is hard to ignore. When Harry talks about service, he usually follows it up by showing up. That's what catches people's attention. See, there are two ways to build a public image. One is through ceremony. The other is through rolling up your sleeves and getting involved. Harry has often leaned towards the second one. You don't remember someone because they waved from a balcony for 6 seconds. You remember them because they sat down and listened, because they stayed longer than expected, because they made you laugh when you were having a rough day, because they made you feel like you mattered. Those are the moments people carry home. It's a bit like having two teachers at school. One reads straight from the textbook, finishes the lesson and leaves. The other stays after class to help the students who are struggling. Years later, guess which teacher people still talk about? Exactly. That's how real connections are built. And I think that's why Harry's charity work continues to resonate with so many people. Whether he's spending time with veterans, encouraging young people, supporting mental health initiatives, or visiting children, the focus often seems to be on the people in front of him, not on creating a perfect photo. That's something regular people notice, because we've all met someone who makes you feel like they're checking a box, and we've all met someone who makes you feel like you are the only person in the room. Those are two very different experiences. So when people ask why Harry keeps returning to this kind of work, I don't think the answer is complicated. Service has never looked like a slogan for him. It's looked like showing up, listening, sharing a laugh, giving people his time. At the end of the day, that's what many charities need most. Not just another visitor, someone who's willing to walk through the door, get involved, and make the people there feel like they matter. And honestly, no headline can measure that as well as the people who experienced it themselves. Thanks for watching, Squaddies. I'm your host, Miles. Stay blessed and don't let the headlines do your thinking for you. I'll catch you in the next one.